Hey there guys, welcome to another 5-Minute Fridays episode. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the very useful calc function in CSS and how it can help us perform mathematical calculations to achieve practical results in our projects. If you guys are new here and like the content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss an update. So the calc function in CSS is just a native method for doing basic math correctly inside CSS. It takes a specific expression as its argument, with the output of that expression being used as a value for that property. And when we're combining our expressions, it has four basic operators. It's got the add, subtract, multiply and divide. So just to give you guys a picture view of using the calc, we first have the property that we'd like to use. Then we have the calc function with the parentheses, which has the expression inside of those parentheses. And again, the only place you can use the calc function is in the values, not as a direct property itself. So what we're going to do now is go inside VS Code and look at the calc function in action. Right guys, so we're inside VS Code, and as you can see here, we've got a really basic document layout with some basic content. So we've got a div with a class of box, and just has a heading inside of it with the content of box, which you can see here in the browser. Now we also have an internal style sheet, which just has some basic styles for the box size and then the margin, and also for the box itself. So a width of 500 pixels, background color of orange, color of white, some padding, and the text aligned to the center. So let's start applying the calc function to our box here. So as you can see, we have a width here of 500 pixels to our box. Now instead of flat out using the 500 pixels here, we can use calc to create this length instead. So we'll go inside of the width here, and we'll grab the calc function, and we can say 250 pixels plus 250 pixels. And as you can see, it's created the exact same length of that 500 pixels. So 250 plus 250 is 500 pixels. So pretty simple and basic stuff. But what's cool about the calc function here is that we can mix different units. We're not just limited to pixels and pixels or percentages and percentages. We can actually use percentages and pixels together to make our box more responsive. So what I'm going to do for our first unit of measurement here, I'm just going to use 100%. And then instead of multiply, we're going to take away. And we're going to take away, let's take away about, let's say 50 pixels. And what we're essentially saying here with this calculation is that we want it to be 100% width of the browser, but we want to take away 50 pixels, which is giving us this little gap here that you see in the corner. And then what we can do from here is just use margin to center it. So we'll say margin 0 on the top and bottom, also on the left and right. So that centers our box, and you can really start seeing the functionality of the calc function here. Now what we can also do from here is combine the calc function with CSS variables. So what I'm going to do first is just create a global variable for us to use. So we're going to create it inside the root selector, and I'm going to call this variable width, and I'm going to give it a value of 350 pixels. So now we've created this variable, we have access to this variable anywhere in our content. Now if you guys want to learn a bit more about CSS variables, check out my 5-Minute Fridays episode on CSS variables if you guys are interested. Now let's just say we want to create another box later on throughout our projects. So let's just quickly do that now. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call this box 2, and just copy the styling from the first box and include the box 2 class. And then what I'm going to do is apply the variable to the first box. So we're going to grab the width variable inside of a var function, and let's also apply it to the box 2. So we've hypothetically created this box later on throughout our project, so they're not actually combined here. But anyway, let's just say we want this box to be double the size of the first box. We can use calc to help us out here. So what we can do is actually grab the calc function, and then let's just insert the var function inside there with the width variable, and then we can use the multiplication and say we want it double the size, and we just insert a 2. And as you can see here now, we've combined the global variable of 350 pixels, and we've used calc to make it double the size of the first box. So it's really cool and practical to combine CSS variables with the calc function. Now I just want to quickly add here guys, if I just get rid of that when we're using the calc function, so we'll just apply a calc function here quickly of 250 pixels plus 250 pixels. The add and subtract operators, you need to have space either side of these operators or it will render the code invalid. So if I get rid of the space on this side, you see the calc function is no longer working. Now the same doesn't really apply to divide or multiply, but it is good practice to apply space between these two. So again, just remembering that you need to have a space either side of the operators, specifically with an add and subtract operator. So to summarize guys, using the calc function is a CSS method for doing basic maths correctly in CSS. It can be super beneficial in helping with practical aspects of your projects and works really well when combined with CSS variables. So that'll be it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.